Good evening and welcome to this meeting via Skype of the Wellington Shire Council for this Tuesday, the 19th of May 2020. In fact, in opening the meeting, we might just simply do a quick roll call. I don't know how you did this last time, Councillor Maher, but I might, working from my right, Councillor Stevens.
Yes, President, I can hear you. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Ripper.
Present, Mayor.
Councillor McCubbin.
Yes, President, I can hear you.
Excellent. Councillor Bye.
Yeah, President, can hear you.
Excellent. Councillor Rossetti.
I can hear you and everything's good, thank you.
Councillor Maher.
I can hear you and see you.
Thank you. Councillor Crosley.
Present, and I can hear you.
And Councillor Hull.
And I'd like to report everything's working. Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. And of course we have the CEO with us as well. So I might just open the meeting in terms of some information that as the COVID-19 social distancing requirements remain in place, the Minister for Local Government has issued the Minister's Good Practice Guidelines, MGPG1, virtual meetings, pursuant to Section 87 of the Local Government Act 2020. These guidelines ensure that local government decisions can continue in line with COVID-19 requirements, and further details can be found on the Local Government Victoria website. These guidelines took effect from the 1st of May 2020 and will remain in place through to the 1st of November 2020. Whilst members of the public can no longer attend meetings in person, we've provided options for you to interact with us virtually via our council meetings page on the Wellington Shire Council website, and you are able to interact with council in two ways. Email through a specific question or comment relating to a particular council agenda item. That should have been done no later than 1 o'clock today, or for general communications with council via the webcasting chat room early in the meeting to ensure that your submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. While we face a new way of gathering, we thank you for your continued support and look forward to a new way of keeping in touch with all of the Wellington Shire. And as a matter of protocol, there is no need to stand for either the acknowledgement or the prayer. So we acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen.
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 Have no apologies, CEO.
None, Mayor.
Moving on to item A3, declarations of conflicts of interest.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I wish to indicate I have a conflict of duty under Section 78B in a matter that's coming up in item C 5.1.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. Moving on to item A4, confirmation of minutes of previous council meeting. Councillor Bye.
Yeah, just getting there. Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I move the Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 5th of May 2020.
Seconded by Councillor Crosley.
Yeah, Mayor. Second.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye?
No, it's good, thank you.
Right. There's no business arising from the previous meeting, CEO?
None, Mayor.
No late items?
None, Mayor.
No notices of motion?
No, none, Mayor.
Moving on to item A8, receiving of petitions or joint letters. At item A8, 2, receipt of petition vegetation management in Wellington Shire. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council receive the attached petition from the Wellington Residents Ratepayers Group Incorporated in relation to a request for a review of vegetation management programs across the Wellington Shire.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, motion is carried. Councillor Ripper, just to speak to this?
No, Mayor.
Moving on to item A11, Mayor and Councillors' activity report. And before I move to Councillor McCubbin to move that, might I just make a very brief comment in regard to whilst the listing of activities has been impacted, and that's noted in the report as a result of the issues around COVID-19, I'd just like to convey my thanks to the councillors, CEO, staff for the support that I've received over this last month, which I've been overwhelmed with. And I'd also like to thank in particular Councillor Marr for her fantastic chairing of our first virtual meeting. So I think I'm now in your hands, Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that the Mayor and Council activity report be noted.
Seconded, Councillor Rossetti.
Yes, seconded, Bernie. Thank you.
Is that opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you, Mayor Hall, and thank you again for being back again. Our hearts have certainly been with you over this difficult time, and it's wonderful to have you back. The organisation, like the whole community, has been thrown, of course, with this whole pandemic, and it's amazing that it's only been 2 months, but our whole paradigm, if you like, has altered. Communities are doing things. I know our kids are being taught from school. I know all of our clubs and societies have changed and moved with the times. The local Mafra Gymnastics Club now has a Zoom meeting where all the kids get on board and do their gymnastics training. I know that clubs all over Wellington, just like businesses, just like our communities, are all doing their bit during these rather difficult times. And that is, of course, shared by our councillors and our council staff. Can I say how proud I am of the council staff at this time and the efforts that they are doing to alter the way that we conduct our business and still provide good value to the ratepayers. For example, I think our arts and cultural department is quite unique. If you go along to the Wedge website, you'll see streaming from Shakespeare to ballet to a series of documentaries by our backstage crew, Daub's Docos. And can I mention Trivia at the Wedge, which is happening this Thursday night at 7:30 on Saturday. Free to anyone from any place can come along, and it's about being kind Wellington. And I know councillors, all of us, even though there's a small number of products there on order, all of us are working with the community in these difficult times, and I'd like to congratulate my fellow councillors who are also working very, very hard. If there's one thing I can mention, during the week, Councillor Crosley and myself were part of a series of webinars, the Smart Future webinar series, and if anybody in the community wants to have a look at that, it's on the cloud. You just need to Google Smart Future webinar. And this week it was talking about some new industries for Wellington, in particular the Star of the South offshore wind farm, the Delburn wind farm, and indeed the Gippsland Energy Park, which is coming to Perry Bridge. Look, there was over 200 people on the webinar. Lots of questions came in for those projects. Firstly, can I say, and all of them, of course, have got to go through a full environmental audit, and there's still a ways to go. But the potential for them to not only provide energy for our future, but jobs in our Wellington Shire is amazing. And I really congratulate Star of the South. Erin Coldham, the CEO, was on the webinar, and she announced that she's opening an office in Yarram. So we've already got real jobs in the renewable industry in Yarram as we speak, as part of this $1 billion development for the Wellington Shire. So that was really amazing to be able to hear about that. This week we also have the webinar looking at local community projects, and I know Lacola, which has gone from a diesel generating community into a fully renewable green town, they're going to be presenting on tomorrow at 12 o'clock, and I recommend people go there. So I guess I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, to take so long, but just to say to everyone how proud I am of the way the community has gone over this COVID. We've still got a ways to go. I know people are doing it hard, but also how proud I am of the community, of our councillors, and our staff for the way that they've done. And my congratulations to the CEO for his leadership through this time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor McCubbin. I don't think I could have expressed that any better, so thank you very much. I don't believe we have any reports of delegates.
No.
No. Moving on then to item C 1.1, the Chief Executive Officer's report, which is contained on page 45 of the agenda papers. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that the Chief Executive Officer's report be received.
Seconded by Councillor Bai. Councillor Bai needs to unmute.
Yes, I'll try that again. I'd like to second that. Thanks, Mayor.
Is that opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper, you speak.
Thank you, Mayor. As Councillor McCubbin has just mentioned, that these are different times, and the CEO has still been busy meeting via Skype with Darren Chester and with the CEO Latrobe to discuss One Gippsland share services, catch up on Zoom meetings with Grant Radford regarding our new TAFE, and also with Inspector Craig Gaffey, is the new inspector here at the Sale Police, who took up his position in 2019. Now, I'd like to also mention and congratulate the CEO from the time COVID started 2 months ago to move all the staff out of a building and have them working at home, and the managers for monitoring their staff when they're at home. They're not just at home by themselves. Some of them have got their partners or husbands and children, and they're trying to school them. So that is an absolute huge job to be doing, as well as doing the managers and the CEO's job. So I'd just like to make public what a fantastic job that they're doing, is monitoring all these people, and also to thank the staff, for some of them have moved out of their jobs into other jobs to be working in other areas. So a job well done by everyone, and thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. We might move on to item C 1.2, April 2020 Council Performance Report, which is contained on page 46 of the agenda. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to move that Council receive and note the April 2020 Council Performance Report as attached.
I think seconded by Councillor Marr.
I'm happy to second that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? Not, the motion is carried. Councillor Stevens?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to note that in our financial performance, that our CapEx program is pretty much on target, and it's still been able to be maintained despite the difficulties within the COVID-19 pandemic. We've also, I notice, we'll be looking towards a small surplus at the end of the year. So financially, we're on track for a good outcome this financial year. I'd also like to note that the council has made a decision to defer any interest on outstanding rates. The last quarterly rate notice has just gone out, but for the period the 1st of April to the 30th of June, we are not going to be charging interest on outstanding rates. And I'm also advised that that means that if people do have some difficulty in paying the last rate instalment, that they will have up until the 30th of June, so an extra month to actually pay it. But I would implore anyone who's having difficulty with paying their rates to get in touch with the office staff and to make a payment plan as soon as possible. I'd also like to just note, just to give us a bit of an idea of the scope of and the size of the Wellington Shire, I note that at the 30th of June we anticipate that we will have something like $989 million worth of assets under management. So it just, I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact of just how major a business the Wellington Shire actually is, Mr Mayor. And I'd just like to sort of also recap what both Councillor McCubbin and Councillor Ripper commented on, and congratulate the CEO and the staff for the marvellous way in which they're continuing to function during this COVID-19 pandemic. They've been able to readjust the operation of the staff. We've had to close down our office and all our other major services, and it's really been magnificent the way the arts and community staff have managed to still run programs. I've been on and had a look at the Gippsland Art Gallery's virtual display, and it's really worthwhile going to have a look at. The work that the Wedge has done, Councillor McCubbin referred to that. I note the library staff are now still continuing to distribute books, and the library has actually purchased extra e-books, and I particularly note there's been a 55% increase in people reading e-books. I went on to try and borrow an e-book, and just about every one of our e-books that's available is out on loan at the moment. So congratulations to the staff. I suppose the only thing holding things back, I think, is the Trivia Pursuit Leader on Thursdays and Saturday nights. So we've had to sort of cut costs and sort of just make do with whoever we could get to run those programs. I don't really mean that. I'm sure I'm going to actually tune in and just see what a great job you're doing too, Councillor McCubbin. So
thank you,
well done. Congratulations to you two for keeping the spirits of the community up in these trying times. And that probably sums up. So just everyone is continuing to do a great job. We are managing to survive via Skype meetings. It'll be great when we can go back to face-to-face, Mr Mayor, but we're doing what we can in the meantime, so thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens, and remember to turn the volume down when you move on to the trivia, won't you? Can we move on to item C2.1, Assembly of Councillors? Councillor Bye.
I move the council note to receive the attached Assembly of Council records for the period 30th of April 2020 to the 13th of May 2020.
Yeah, seconded by Councillor Rossetti.
I'm seconding that. Thank you, Councillor Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye?
No, nothing there.
All right. Moving on to item C2.2, Remuneration Committee minutes. Councillor Hole.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm going to move 1, the council note and receive the minutes from the Remuneration Committee meeting held on the 5th of May 2020 as attached, and 2, council endorse the actions from the Remuneration Committee meeting held on the 5th of May 2020 as detailed in the attached minutes.
Thanks, Councillor Hole. And seconded by Councillor Marr.
I'm happy to second that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Is that opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Hole?
Well, it's another good report in the way the councillors are operating their budget. Just about everything is under the allowable limit, and with the last 2 months of not doing too much in the way of travelling and other ancillary expenses, the next budget or next report should be a ripper.
That's a ripper. I've got that. Okay, moving on to item C 2.2.
Oh, okay, I better sign it off then.
2.3, I think it is. I've written over it. The CEO temporary delegation increase.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council 1 approve the temporary increase of the Chief Executive Officer's financial delegation to $1 million for capital works programs only until 31st December 2020 to facilitate the award of contracts to expedite the capital works program due to the impacts of COVID-19 restrictions and the transition to monthly council meetings from July, and 2, require the CEO provide once a month at an ordinary council meeting until 31st December 2020 a list of capital works contracts awarded over the CEO's current delegation for noting by council. I'm comfortable with that. Mayor, I would like to actually modify that with a comma after capital works programs only. As I was reading it, I read it could be, it wasn't as clear. I'd like to put a comma in there, please, after capital works programs only, comma.
I think that's not unreasonable, Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you. Now, that's not going to change on my PDF version on the screens, but if that's the motion I've moved with the comma in there between capital works programs only, comma, until 31st December 2020, I'd love someone to second that.
Yep, I'm happy to second that, Councillor Rossetti, and thank you for that change. I accept that as well.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. The issues we've had around the COVID and social distancing and people working from all sorts of different locations has meant a lot of change in what we're doing during this state of emergency. What this motion is about is we have a lot of capital works programs, typically about 20 programs are signed off on each year. The CEO has delegation of $400,000 typically, including GST. But given we're only going to be meeting once a month, and the complexities of the meetings makes it more difficult. But also the issue is meeting once a month means all of these could actually be delayed, and we don't want these important capital works delayed. So just for the rest of this year, until 31st December, the Mayor will be able to sign off on those capital works programs up to $1 million, get those underway, get those working. And the cross check there for us is that obviously they're capital works programs we've signed off on in the budget in any case, and also he'll be reporting back to the open council meetings about what has been signed under that delegation. So I'm very comfortable with those cross checks, and thank the councillors for supporting that motion.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. I think you meant that the CEO could sign off. I don't think anyone's giving me the right to sign off on anything.
Apologies, sorry. I'm sorry, Mayor.
It's a long time since I had anything in my checkbook that looked like $1 million, I can assure you. So moving on to item C.
Vietnam. Go to Vietnam, use dong, I think you'd be right.
Moving on to item C 4.1, Stratford Recreation Reserve Tender Award. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like that Council adopt the recommendations contained at item F1.1 2020-048 Stratford Recreation Reserve Facility Improvement Tender Evaluation Report for Contract 2020-048 Stratford Recreation Reserve Facility Improvements, and 2. Note the information contained item F1.1 2020-048 Stratford Recreation Reserve Facility Improvements of this council meeting and designated under section 77 clause 2C of the Local Government Act 1989 as confidential by the General Manager, Build and Natural Environment on the 13th of May 2020 because it relates to the following grounds under section 89(2) of the Local Government Act 1989 C. Contractual matters be designated confidential information under section 77 clause 2B of the Local Government Act 1989, except that once this recommendation has been adopted, the name of the successful tenderer can be made public.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Seconded by Councillor Bai.
Yes, I'd like to second that, Mayor.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a very, very exciting construction going to be happening at the Rec Reserve, the Stratford football ground. It's the current change rooms do not meet any type of a standard of apparently the current standards for disability access and for female athletes and officials. So this is a significant barrier for those who want to play. So works under this contract of construction to cater for the football, netball, cricket, as well as providing facilities for officials who come to umpire, etc. at the reserve. So this will just make another great asset for Stratford, who is growing week by week. Once removal trucks are coming in daily to unload furniture into the new houses in Stratford. So we will be having some more young children coming up to football, netball, etc. So it's quite exciting news. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper, and I'm pleased to announce that the tender has been awarded to RAL Constructions. We move on to item C5.1, Community Assistance Grants, Events, Projects and Facilities. Before we move to that, Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, under section 78B of the Local Government Act 1989, I'd like to declare that I have a conflict of duty in relation to this item, and I'll now hang up.
Thank you very much. We'll wait for you to leave the meeting. Done? So, we have a move for that motion.
We do. You still see Councillor Stevens' face on my screen. Has it gone?
Yeah, it's gone, Councillor. The phone's been disconnected.
There we are. That's gone now. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council approves recommendations to allocate community assistance grants, events, projects and facilities March 2020 funds as detailed in Attachment A, and that applicants be notified of the outcome of their applications.
Mayor, I'll second that.
Thanks, Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillors, for supporting that motion. In this round of funding, there have been 8 event applications received for $34,475 and 2 projects for $10,000 and 3 facilities for grants for $13,998. This money, of course, is it's not our money. It's not council's money. It really is ratepayers' money being put back into the community. But what's really nice about this money going back into the community from all of us, all of our communities, is it's supporting such great projects that give way more value than the amounts that we're putting in here. So things like the Maffra Neighbourhood House doing an indoor movie night, the Yarramah Stedford, the Sale RSL Community Sub-Branch, their 75th anniversary for the end of World War II concert. I can imagine they'll be doing the Quartermaster's store there and the old sergeant coming in and tucking him into bed. Braegler Mechanics Institute Hall Film Festival, the Hayfield Traders and Tourism Association Food and Wine Festivals, Locksport Golf Club, the Sandgreens Championships, the Kennel Club with the dog shows, the Sale of Maffra District, the Maffra Agricultural Society Food and Wine Court, the Rotary Club of Sale Central, the Monday Tucker, Maffra Gymnastics, and even the Glassford Kindergarten Sandpit and Play Space Redevelopment, where Mayor I learned to play in that sandpit as a youngster, and it probably hasn't changed much since then, so I'm sure the $5,000 will go down a treat. Now, some of those events will be modified, given they may or may not be able to be held due to the COVID restrictions, but we've been speaking with those groups to see how best the funds can be allocated to the actual events when they finally come through. But just finishing off, I think even down on the coastal areas with the Woodside Beach Surf Lifesaving Club doing amenities upgrades to the female facilities, and also the Wanron Recreation Reserve putting in additional water supply. These are all great projects, relatively small amounts, but if they help those groups get big projects underway that make a difference to their communities, it's a great outcome. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. And Councillor Maher, if you want to knock on the wall and let Councillor Stevens know he can come back. I imagine there's no urgent business, CEO?
None, Mayor.
Anything from the gallery or chat room comments, CEO?
Nothing in the chat room, Mayor.
Excellent. I don't think we have any need to move into closed session. So on that basis, at 6:26 adjusted lock sport time, I'm happy to declare the meeting closed.
Thank you, Mayor.